look at my phone. I'm going to look at it on my screen here. But yeah, let's go for it.
All right, so I see us. We're showing up on YouTube, so that means this is officially working. So I see us. We're gonna pause that because we're well, welcome to that Steadily intro. Thanks for joining the Peeled Back Live Conversation with series. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing my guest, Likky Lavji. And
Lavji, how's that?
Oh my God, I knew I'd screw it up as soon as it came out of my mouth. And me, I'm the host today for the Conversation with series. So this is episode 5. So thank you very much, my friend, for being on this and for going through a new technical test with me.
It's my pleasure, Gene. It's always great talking to you.
Yes. All right. So for everyone who doesn't know, your title says you are the BS coach. So tell us a little bit about what that BS stands for and what are you up to?
Well, we're live, so I'm assuming we're going to offend a lot of people if I say what it really stands for.
I want
to say blind spot navigator, but the BS actually stands for your own bull crap. How's that?
I like it.
Okay. We all have that. We all have it in our ways. So I help people find what that really is. And the way that really came about was I had my own BS in the way for many, many years. And it really affected the way I was around my family, my friends, even my employees. And once I resolved and found out some of this stuff, it made my life so much easier. So I want to make sure that I go out and help people so they don't have these same issues.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about where, share how you got into blind spots specifically, because out of all the things you could have tackled it and went on trying to trying to resolve some of those things, like it's unique. You don't hear a lot of people saying, "Hey, I'm a blind spot coach or a BS coach."
Well, it's interesting. I used to do a lot of, actually I still do a lot of consulting and coaching to businesses. And you go into these organizations and talk to CEOs and they're all excited about the work that we're doing. And you get down to the real hard work about making those hard decisions or having those hard conversations. And all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I'm going to back off on that. Can we just not talk about that right now and do this instead? And then you wonder why businesses don't grow and they don't have these conversations. Well, because they're holding on to a lot of limiting beliefs that's in the way. And this really came to light for me. I was part of this inner circle last year in New York, and we had this conversation. And I asked them, I said, I got to ask you a simple question. How do I show up when I walk into a room? And they said, are you sure you want to know? I said, yeah, I want to know. And they go, well, you show up as a pompous ass. And I go, what? And they go, hang on a second, a pompous ass until you start speaking. And I go, okay, I need to know more about this, so tell me. And they go, well, you walk into this room without smiling, and you're always dressed up. I love dressing up. And I walked into this room, and there's no smile, and I thought I was smiling.
Right.
So now if you notice, when we started the live stream, I was actually making an exaggerated smile because I don't want to be known as a pompous ass. But that was a blind spot. I thought I was smiling, and I wasn't. Because it's just such a simple thing that people don't ask.
Right.
Like, are you going to ever ask, how do I show up when I walk into a room? What's your first impressions of me? And once you hear it, are you going to do anything about it?
It's a really, for somebody, that's a tough question, to ask. And it's really a tough question to answer too, right? So like you've got those two competing, we'll call them blind spots or like conflicts potentially, be like, I don't want to maybe I don't want to hear the answer, or maybe I know the answer. So I'm just going to ask the question without being prepared for anything else. And then you're kind of putting somebody on the spot who may not be comfortable enough to step up to say, hey, Likky, you're walking in like a pompous asshole. Like you're dressed to the nines with no smile. Like what's with that? So props to your friend or your colleague for actually saying that, because I suspect a lot may have given you the fluff answer.
Well, I think that was actually on me, because I created a space of trust, because I created the conversation saying, I want to hear the truth from you. And if you can't tell me the truth, please don't say anything. Right. And when as they said it, I didn't defend myself. I didn't say, oh, what do you mean by that? I just said, okay, that's pretty cool. Tell me more about that. What does that mean? Right. How does that look like? Because once you create that space, people will talk to you. There's another analogy, right? As we all go into work or walk around or drive around, we're always checking for our blind spots because we don't want to get hit. But boy, in life, nobody's telling us what our blind spots are.
That's an awesome metaphor. Like, you can't just look in your mirror. You got to be doing that shoulder check in life.
Yeah. And, up until very recently, the only way I was working with people to find the blind spots was one-on-one coaching. And then we would go through a series of conversations and we would find the saboteurs, the limiting beliefs, the blind spots that were in the way. And then we would work through them. But thank you for sharing that. So until a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, we actually launched an assessment. So it's right there. It's a blind spot assessment where it takes 14 simple questions, takes 60 seconds to go through. And all of a sudden, it puts you into one of 8 categories and gives you your potential blind spots.
Right.
I highly recommend, if you want to know what your blind spots are and you don't want to have anybody else tell you what they are, go to this first and then reach out to me and I can help you through the rest.
Right. So this is a much safer spot to go get that feedback. And so what I will do after the show is I'll include that link in the comments so that anybody that is interested in finding out their blind spots can go through and do it. I've done it. It's like he says, it's like 30 to 60 seconds, super quick, easy questions to on the surface to answer, but they're very telling. And I found mine to be quite accurate.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Everybody has blind spots. And if you don't think you have blind spots, I've got a white couch here. We can have a therapy session after the fact. But literally, everybody has blind spots. We just need to find out what they are.
Yeah.
The more fun part about that is once you find out what other people's blind spots are and you have conversations around it, now you can have some real deep, true, connected conversations about what that looks like.
Right. It empowers you as a coach then to start like identifying, all right, so when we gave you, your example from consultancy, it's like you go in, you do all this work and they're like, this is great. We're not going to implement any of it because it's what they're not saying is it's something about it scares them or something about it is like really uncomfortable about approaching. Well, you can come in and deal with that first, clear the path, and then you're able to get through the real work that needs to be done.
Yeah. So, Gene, we've been doing, you and I have known each other for just over a year, and we connected over LinkedIn, which is of all places, and we've become really good friends, and we're doing some work together. Now, I want to ask you something. I know you're supposed to be interviewing me, but I'm going to just turn this around a bit, just because, you say you're an enjoyment coach.
Yes.
And I talk about enjoyment coach, and I think about blind spots. I don't think there's a single person out there who doesn't want to be happy.
I don't think any, I would say that's probably a very true statement.
Yeah. Nobody on purpose wants to be sad or upset. They all want to be happy.
Yeah.
But what's really in the way of being happy is their own beliefs and their own structure and their own system that they have in place.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, is that what you help people find? Like, how does an enjoyment coach bring out the joy?
I knew you were going to turn the tables on me. I just didn't think it was going to be this quick into the show. So
it's a conversation, man.
I should have known inviting you on here. So really what that looks like is kind of that similar topic of like, I don't call them blind spots, but it's like you use the word limiting beliefs as well. It's around those limiting beliefs. It's about the stories that we tell ourselves about why we're going to avoid that uncomfortableness. So I'm a huge fan of being uncomfortable. And actually right now I'm running a program called Let's Get Uncomfortable. It's a 4-week challenge. And it's all about leaning into that because so many people think that and maybe I'm over exaggerating, but my experience has been when somebody's hit with this, like that sense of uncomfortableness, like that pushback of some kind, they take that as a message to let off the gas. And what it's really going is saying to them is, are you sure? My job as that barrier is to say, are you sure? Keep pushing because it's going to be worth it, but you have to earn it and you have to overcome that, right? It's the evil little subconscious voice that as you're going through that state of transformation is it's going to test you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't want to change, right? Our subconscious loves to be in that state of status or stasis, right? Whatever you're doing is happy. Even if you're miserable, it has no concept of it being miserable, not just going, oh, this is what you keep telling us that you want, so we're going to keep bringing this into your life. And as you start to make that change or get into that uncomfortable zone, it's going, are we going to be reprogrammed? Do we like being reprogrammed? Are we going to get enough information for this programming to stick? And where people don't step into it. So when I say I'm an enjoyment coach, I actually my goal is to help you enjoy that process of getting through there. Enjoy the journey. Maybe I've stolen that tagline from Gary Vee, but it's so true. Is like, if you're not enjoying that journey of going through and learning this and putting the reps in and getting used to doing what I call micro pushes, is like every time you feel that resistance, just push into it just a little bit, just to see what's going to happen. And I think a lot of people get lost in going where they are to where they want to be, going, wow, that's huge. I don't know the first step to get there.
Yeah.
And it's so overwhelming. Be like, you don't need to, this side doesn't happen overnight. It happens because every day you've taken a micro push and pushed into it.
Yeah. I love that, Gene. I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I love that. First of all, you know what? You actually look like Gary Vee. I didn't realize until you said that. So you're the Gary Vee twin. I love that. But you talk about that journey, right? You talk about what it takes, and you showed about how you do it. But what I'm really hearing is that for us to be happy and enjoy the journey, the outcome is what we're after. That outcome of enjoyment in the organization, with the people that we work with, and even in our relationships, right? Who wants to have a bad relationship? Nobody wants that.
No.
So we all want that incredible relationship, but it's got to be the joy that takes us there. Yeah. So you're helping people push the limit, push the boundaries to get there. So let me ask you, what are some of the blind spots that are in the way that you've been coming across with people?
Well, the main blind spot that I've seen is, that's a great question, and I'm wrong to answer. But there
is no wrong answer, because everybody has blind spots. Remember that. And some of the common ones that I come across are, I'm not good enough. I can't feel that I'm needed here. I need to prove myself. There's the imposter syndrome. Those are some of the common things I come across, and I'm sure you come across those as well, because everybody has that imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And I think that's the imposter syndrome is the biggest one that I've seen with for myself and with my clients, is like that. Giving them the permission to dream big, right? Because I've seen a number of people start to have that big dream, and then they're like, nah, like that's maybe too big. Like, no, I'm gonna say that's bullshit. And just dare to dream. Like, and if we can get you just daring to dream, great, we got you there. Now let's get really super clear on that. It's almost like a deep visualization of that dream. Like, can you walk through it? Can you feel it? What does it smell like? What does it feel like to embody it? Like, put that on like a fine suit. Make sure you're smiling, because nobody wants to see you and not smiling. But I found with getting through that initial blind spot of just that dare to dream, that dare to hope, right, is being really able to see that future. And if you can start to wear it, you can start then to believe it. And yes, as you're walking into it, you may still feel like that imposter syndrome is still going to ring in your ears. And I don't know, I'm still, I guess we're both pretty still young in our journeys, but like, I think it's always going to be kind of like there yipping, and it's up to you to be like, how loud do you give it? And one of the things, the ways I've talked with my clients about approaching that is looking at that as that it's maybe it's the wrong metaphor, but no one string me up for this, but like it's that unemotional, detached dad. And he's out there and you think he's yelling at you because he doesn't actually want you to achieve anything, or he's calling you out saying, oh, are you sure you're going to be able to do that? Deep down, what he wants is for you to be more than he could ever be. And he just doesn't know the better way of saying it. So when you start thinking about it, like personifying that voice a little bit, however it's going to work for you, it puts a little bit of a humor to it, but you can start to see that, oh, it's actually championing you. It's just, it wants to see you push and it wants to see you earn it. Yeah. And I think like those are, I don't have labels for that blind spot, but it's definitely like, how do you actually build a relationship with that voice?
Well, there's a marriage between what happened in the past. So the interesting part about blind spots, it's our perceptions and behaviors from the past that are causing us to behave the way we are today.
Yep.
As simple as that. And, I know my journey over the past few years has been incredible. I've been loving what I've been doing, a lot of self-awareness. And one of the things that, I'm going to ask for permission to get vulnerable, if that's okay, and share a couple of stories. I went through this journey a few years ago where I had a real hard time accepting this, and that was that I had really high anxiety. And I never knew that. And I thought it was just anger and lack of trust that was causing that. But the high anxiety caused me to have anger issues at home, with my family, with even with my employees at times. And I feel terrible for putting them through that. Now, that led to mild depression as time went along. But I had to go back and figure out where this came from. So, I was speaking with counselors and therapists and going through this process and getting back to the root trigger points of that anxiety caused me to let it go.
Yeah.
So, for example, up until last year, I'd only taken 5 flights for business purposes on my own in 30 years of my business. I was afraid of flying. Last year, I did 40 flights without any drugs or medication, and I had a blast.
Right.
Now, as a public speaker and a workshop facilitator, I had a chance to travel across North America quite a bit. But imagine me being up here speaking, also with a major stutter. So think about that. I got rid of anxiety because I was able to root cause where the anxiety came from. I got rid of a stutter because I found out the root cause of that stutter. The root cause of that stutter was when I was 10 years old, when I immigrated to Canada. My teacher had asked me, please share your immigration story, the journey with us. And I got up in front of the class and I shared, and as soon as I got up there, the kids started laughing. English wasn't my first language.
Right.
And one kid yells, go back to where you came from. And then a couple of minutes later, they all started laughing and they started chanting, go back to where you came from. I looked at the teacher goes, I don't know what to do. He didn't know how to deal with it. So I sat back down in a chair and started crying. The next day, Likky's not good enough. He doesn't belong here. And guess what? The stutter started.
Right.
But I'd forgotten that. For 30 years, I'm dealing with a stutter every time I got uncomfortable. Once I went back to my blind spot to realize what it was, when it came in, got rid of it, I was able to let go of all of that.
Right.
So you're talking about the limiting beliefs that are in the way right now, the imposter syndromes. Those are not created today. These were created decades ago when you were younger. Let's find out where they came from. Go through that journey. Then you can really let it go. You can identify them today, which is great. Then you can process backwards to let it go. A lot of people will go through this journey with us and say, great, I found my blind spot. But they won't do the real hard work to find out where they got it from.
Right. And until they get to that, there's So I heard a really interesting quote yesterday that ties into that really well. Is if you do not heal what hurt you, you will bleed all over everybody who cut you or who didn't cut you.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really powerful about just for that, the message that you're sharing there is that you had to go back and actually do the hard work of identifying and pushing through all the stories and everything else that had been wrapped around to protect that belief. Because unfortunately, somebody in a group of somebodies who didn't know better programmed you to go, you're not welcome here. You're not good enough. And that's stuck in your 10-year-old mind for the next 30 years and like guided things. Like you could only imagine what reactions that you weren't even totally aware of were triggered because your subconscious just kept going, we're not worthy. We're not worthy. And everything that would rub up against that, I'm sure, came out in ways that now you're like, wow, makes sense. But at the time, it was just, that's just who I am.
Yeah, exactly.
I've done.
So sorry, I'm gonna cut you off there because I'll tell you there's one thing that these people need to hear. I'm walking the talk. I'm dealing with my blind spots on an ongoing basis, and I know you are as well.
Yeah.
I have a coach helping me weekly. I know you've got a coach helping you as well. And you've been, you talk about those limiting beliefs, and I know you and I worked together on this 5 months ago.
Yeah.
So you're actually walking the talk, and the enjoyment that you're getting out of this is you're actually taking what you're learning and giving to somebody else.
Oh, 100%.
And I say that's what incredible coaches are. That's where the coaches who actually doing the work, who can express and deal with it and help you through it, are the people to work with. You, my friend, are a coach that brings joy in people. Every time I work with you, you make me happy because you allow me to get connected to you. So I appreciate for you doing that. And the people that you're working with, they're incredibly lucky to have you as their coach. Because you've got the strength, you've got the ability to find that. You look for that little golden nugget in those people and get them to push that barrier. So well done.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. And I take that compliment. So to be vulnerable back is when we start working together, I wouldn't have received that compliment. And I didn't receive compliments for a very, very long time. And I can't tell you exactly where that story came from, but I know it was definitely from my youth. And in school times, I was one of those nerdy kids. But definitely there was stories of how I wasn't good enough. I wasn't worthy enough. And so I never held on to it and just kept fighting and working harder and harder to keep doing more and more and going, why am I not fulfilled? Why am I not fulfilled? Like, even just on our most recent call, we talked about appreciation and how that actually ties into it. And being able to actually take a compliment, I would deflect them. And if any of my friends are watching this, they're going to laugh and go, yes, that's exactly what he did. But very few people ever caught on to it because I was very good at it. And I didn't even know I was doing it most of the time. And so it'd be like, instead of wearing that compliment and letting it sink in, spin it off going, nah, you're the awesome one. And here's why you're so awesome. And here's why I'm listening to you. And it would be gone. And I wouldn't have to deal with it because it felt uncomfortable. Like, what am I'm feeling somebody saying that I'm awesome, yet deep down, I'm like, am I? I don't really feel it. And being able just to open that door to go, yes, I am. And that the spare to hope in 5 seconds really does. It's incredible how quickly it changed. Like I've shared with you in the past where coming to some of these realizations, it's almost like the dominoes all of a sudden start to fall in my mind. I'm like, oh, they all make sense. And it's instantly once you kind of dig and pull enough of those threads back. And that for me is really exciting to be able to watch that happen in somebody else where they're like, oh, this is going to take so long. This is going to take so long. Be like, and then all of a sudden they're like, all the lights come on. They're like, whoa, that's what that all meant. And they can actually have an honest conversation with themselves around what that's going to mean going forward. For me, like that's one of the the visualizations that I do with some clients is like a tend and mend, right? So like think of it as like a big gaping wound, and it's just been festering and festering. And now the lights are on it. You're actually forced to look at it, clean it up. Before you can suture it up and before it can actually start to heal, you have to clean it away and like just, you almost have to open that wound up again so it can heal. And then you can start to mend, right? And you can start to take care of it and start to go, it's okay. I see you and we're getting through this. And slowly part of that visualization is like watching the stitches go into it, watching it start to close and feeling it and going, it's all right.
Yeah.
You were trying to protect me, and thanking it. Because at one point it did protect you.
Exactly.
And it did its job, but now it's time for it to
let it go.
Resolve it, right?
And you think about when you and I started working, I think about just about 6 months ago, and seeing the journey you've taken over the last 6 months and the people that you're helping impact now is incredible. It was just a few conversations that allowed you to shift, allow you to open up and really dig deep into who you are as a person, figuring out what you really wanted to do. Because when we first started working, you weren't sure which way to go. Yeah, and as you started talking to me and as you started working with me, you realize, okay, this is what I want to be doing, and this is what I'm born to do. So why don't I just do that? Well, there were some things in the way.
There definitely was, right? Like,
yeah.
I just had a story about, like one of our first, like we were doing, like we said, we met on LinkedIn and just having conversations, and we were having just a catch-up call. And I remember you going, can I put my coaching hat on for a minute? And like, that was like the beginning of that journey. And I can't remember what the story was, but it ended up leading to us eventually talking about scarcity. And
so, and I'm glad you said that. It is about scarcity. And I'd say most of the people that I work with have a scarcity mindset of some sort. And it's okay. That's what you know. But I'm going to invite you to think of something. When you were a young kid, you were given an allowance of $4 or $2, whatever it was, and you ran to the grocery store and you bought gum. And you came back home and you were excited eating the gum, chewing it away. And your dad looks, you wasted that money on that gum? Damn, that scarcity mindset just kicked in right there.
Yeah.
That's all it was. Dad didn't mean anything bad by it.
No.
But that small comment of, that's what you wasted your money on, made you scarcity.
Yeah.
So just think about that. Reality most likely isn't you need to be scarcity. I mean, right now, what economics are a little bit tough right now. We understand that. We all have to be cautious. Being cautious is different than having a scarcity mindset. And I know you and I talked about that. It wasn't a reality.
No, and you know what, for people, because I see that there are people watching, so maybe not everybody understands what a scarcity mindset is and what's the alternative. What's your 30-second description between the two to give them context? Because it's not just about money, and I like that you added that.
It's not about money. It's about love. It's about needing more and more of something, and always needing something to think that that's where you're headed. And I'll use money because a lot of people relate this to money, right? So we hear the conversation. You have to work on the business, not in the business.
Yeah.
But to do that, you have to step out and most likely spend some money to work on the business. Maybe get a coach. Maybe put a system in place. Maybe get a new CRM. But man, I'm going to go to my free email and free this and free that, as opposed to spending $20 a month on Microsoft Office and making everything just perfect. That's the scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Not even stepping back to look at what do I really need to do to grow. And then what ends up happening is, as a salesperson, if you're always in that survival mode, survival instinct, you can't go and sell.
No.
You're pushing a sale, and it shows a mile away. I use an analogy, but I won't use it totally. But I say, imagine walking into a bar to get a date.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to show. And you can replace the get a date with something else if you like. But
Well,
walking into, yeah, go ahead.
100%. In my much younger days and single days, we would go out to the bar and go out to dance. I love to dance. And the nights where there was like, we're going to meet somebody tonight, be like, never works. Where it was like, we're going to go have fun. And if it's just the four guys out there dancing together, then awesome, great time. And those nights when there was no bars, no like expectations, I should say, and just the expectation was we're going to go allow fun with us to happen. And if anybody else wants to like our vibe, cool, that's great. And same thing with sales and everything else. When you come from that like that needy component, it is a bit there's a repulsion to it, right?
It shows as a salesperson walking into a sales meeting, needing that sale. It shows they're pushing really hard. They're just trying to get the sale and get that number, and then they walk away. They're like, "Why didn't I get that sale?" And they don't even have a clue why they didn't get it. Well, because scarcity mindset sitting in the background, and you're thinking that way. And it could be because your sales manager said you've got a quota. And that's no different than your dad saying, well, you spent all that money on your gum.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you shift that conversation around to, I'm going out to helping people, and that's all I'm doing. And if I can help people and they sign up with me, incredible.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, your conversation changes as well.
Oh yeah, you put your positioning back into the value, back into the relationship versus the transaction. That's the way I see it. Like if I were to go out there and actually, which we're doing right now is like the purpose of this is to share some value. Great. It'd be awesome if somebody sees this and goes, I need to work with Likky or I need to work with Gene. That'd be incredible. And definitely not going to turn that down. But the purpose is, can somebody walk away from watching this and go, wow, I just got a great gem on how to change my life. That's the bar right there. Everything else is a cherry. And if you're not focused on building that foundation and being really clear on like, why are you here? Why do you do what you do? At the end of the day, we're all in service in some shape or form. Some of us may work at a product company, but we're still serving something. We're still serving someone, and understanding that and going, how can I serve you today?
You know, Gene, you said something, and everybody watching, there's a lot of coaches out there, and every coach specializes in something else. I'm into blind spots and breaking barriers. You're into enjoyment. We've got health coaches. We've got mental health, whatever. And to be a high-level performer, you need to have a coach. Period. I'm a high believer in that. If you want to get through something, you need to have a coach.
Yeah.
But choose the right coach. It may not be me, may not be Gene, but when you're choosing a coach, make sure they relate to you. Make sure they understand what you need and get you through whatever you're dealing with at that point. And if you don't know what that is, ask. The right coach will help you find what you're dealing with and help you figure out what's in the way.
100% agree with that, right? And there, like you say, there are a lot of coaches out there, and there's a lot that are, maybe not a lot, but there definitely will be some people that are looking to serve their own scarcity self, and that's going to show up, and unfortunately will not allow you to accelerate. So who are they trying to serve? And if you're brave enough to step up to be like, I need a coach or I need support in any shape or form, wherever you're at on your own journey, they should be looking out for your best interest, because that is their role, is to look out for your best interest, not theirs, yours. And I've just been re-listening to the Coactive Audible book again. And the thing this morning on my walk that stands out, and something that I've even thought from my tech days, is it's not about the assets. It's not about the coachee. It's not about the coach. It's about the relationship. That's where the power is. And that's where the drive, the motivation, where all the change is going to happen. And if that relationship is super strong, it's going to allow for some super results. If it's super weak, it gets really transactional, and you're going to feel that, and you're going to find an uncomfortableness that you're going to have to deal with very quickly, right? So it's, how strong is that relationship? Is that relationship what's being built, or is it the two anchor points on either side of it.
One of the things, Gene, I don't know how much time we have. I want to hit this point for sure. Is I do a lot of work with men and women, but I find that the male and the men have a real hard time being vulnerable. They have a hard time really just sharing what's on their mind. And then you think about the executives that are out there, men and women, they're on this level of having to know everything. They're given that role that they have to run the company or rule the company, whatever that looks like. I label that as a CEO disease. You're sitting in this little island of yourself that you need to know everything, and you have no support because you can't tell your employees or your team what you're dealing with. You can't tell the owners because they're going to say, well, I gave you the job, you're supposed to deal with it. So they're in this little island of themselves. So, we have a mastermind group that you belong to as well. Yeah. And what I love about that group is the support that we have from each other and the idea of sharing what's in our ways and working through that. So the group coaching that you're doing right now. So if you don't want to do individual coaching, go to group coaching. Just do something. Get involved where you can share what you're dealing with. Howard Schultz shares this incredible quote. I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to read it off to you. Just give me one sec. And then I know we need to wrap up. But he basically says, I think the currency of leadership is transparency. You've got to be truthful. I don't think you should be vulnerable every day, but there are moments where you've got to share your soul and conscience with the people and show them who you are and not be afraid of it. And the amount of blind spots I deal with around vulnerability and trust is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
People feel that being vulnerable shows weakness. It's the opposite.
It is a strength. It's a superpower, right? Because it's going to allow you to if you're in that leadership position and you can be vulnerable, you're saying, hey, look, if I'm the top dog here I am open kimono and showing all my weak parts. It is okay for you to show your weak parts too, because we will not get through this if we do not address some of these misfiring pieces within us all. And it's like compound interest. We're all complex beings. Then all of a sudden we create these organizations where we bring our own sets of insecurities and all these struggles with us, and they compound. And as it gets bigger and you're not addressing any of it, it drags everything down. When you talk about toxic culture and why, what's missing in our culture from an organizational standpoint, why aren't we achieving what we should be achieving? Because put the brakes on for a moment. Let's actually do the inner work and figure out, is this the company? Is this the individuals? Are these the leaders? Where are we misconnecting here? What aren't we actually looking at deeply and acknowledging and going, you're not serving me anymore. We need to let go of this belief and we're going to do it together.
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow, there's a gentleman from Australia, Kerwin Ray. Mm-hmm. People laughingly calling me the Australian Gary Vee, but he just shared a video maybe last week or the week before, and I reshared it. But he talks about how in his team, he's gone through a huge amount of self-development, and he's a very powerful coach in his own right. But he gave a glimpse of one of his team meetings. Talked about what he realized over the last few years is he had his own things to deal with, and in his gut, he just knew the rest of his team had their own struggles. And on a regular basis, part of their conversation is going, who's dealing with something? And that this is a safe space. And he shares how there's people, him included, just break down in tears. Yeah. And it's very similar to our he's created his company into these pods of masterminds, which are then able to help lift each other up, go and give hugs and go, we got you. Yeah. Or somebody sits across from the table, goes, man, I did that 2 years ago. I'm here and I can help, let me know. Let's go out for a coffee. Let's go break some bread together and just giving that hope again. I think it still always comes back down to that hope component. Is
creating a future is what coaching is always about, right? What does the future look like? How do we get there? But unfortunately, we can't clearly see the future because we have all this crap from our past in our way.
Yeah.
And we got to get that out of the way. So blind spots, the enjoyment stuff you do. I'm going to share this last quote before I got to sign off, but I'll share this last quote, and I'll say to you, it says, "I am not who you think I am. I'm not who I think I am. I am who I think you think I am." I'll read the last part again. I am who I think you think I am. And this starts to resonate with me really well because of the blind spots. We behave based on what other people's perceptions are of us.
Yeah.
That's who we become. And if we become that, we're not ourselves anymore, and we don't know how to look for ourselves, we can't be happy.
No.
The self-awareness, the self-care doesn't happen. So I invite all of you to just think about what it takes to be truly happy inside. You're a great man.
That's an awesome quote to end us on, my friend. I know that you have to go. You've got to hit the road here pretty quick. So I very much appreciate you coming on today with us and being vulnerable and diving right in. This was an awesome conversation. And I as always, I just appreciate you.
Love you, brother, man. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with your team as well.
Yeah.
Appreciate
All right.
it.
Well, safe travels. And thank you, everybody who's been watching and who will watch in the future. Hopefully you've got your gem. And if you do, I'd love it if you share it down in the comments so we know what that is. And maybe we can speak more to those type of things. Until next time, I'm Gene from Peeled Back. And this is
Likky Lavji. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk soon.